So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. So guys, Canelo Alvarez says that in a press conference or an interview that he was conducting yesterday, that a fight with Errol Spence is very likely, but Errol Spence would have to come up to 160. And Canelo said that if Errol Spence is willing to come up to 160, that is a very possible fight that could happen. I think this fight will happen. Canelo, I think even said something like that. You know, Terence Crawford v Spence isn't the fight. Canelo and he is the biggest fight in boxing. I think Errol Spence is very highly rated in America now. I think after that Garcia win, I think people are very, very excited about him, and I think he's a very, very good fighter. I think Spence is an excellent fighter. However, I'm not a big fan of this fight. I know a lot of people. Are probably excited. Spence fans would love to see it. Maybe other boxing fans possibly may want to see it, but I don't like the fight. I don't like the fight at 160. I think Canelo's very big. I think Canelo's very strong, and I think Canelo's very skilled. I think Spence will be in there with somebody that's as skilled, if not more skilled than him. And he'll be in there with a bigger puncher, a guy that's got a granite chin. I believe Spence won't be able to hurt Canelo, but Canelo will be able to hurt him. Canelo's got just as good at body shots as Spence has. So the chances are, with Canelo being the bigger, stronger man, he's going to slow Spence down more than Spence can slow him down, because Canelo's used to taking punches from bigger men. Let's not forget, this is a man that went up to light heavyweight and won a light heavyweight title. This is a guy that started off his career from 15, I believe, at welterweight. This is a monster, big man. Don't look at the size. Don't look at Errol Spence maybe a little taller. Don't look at all of that. Canelo's got natural size. He's got beef. Like, he's big. He's big. I'm telling you, even when he was young, he was like, if you look at Canelo's neck, Canelo's wrists, Canelo's arms, they're thick. They're not like, he's like hench, like muscular like an Anthony Joshua or someone like Kell Brook even, but he's thick. He's a thick set. He's a huge set. He's built like a house, like just strong. Like when you look at him, you can just see he's just strong. Like his face and everything just looks like an Iron Man. And I think Spence, although Spence is an exceptional talent and Spence is a great fighter, there's no doubt about it, I just think he's undersized for fighting someone like Canelo. I think Canelo's just too big. And I think Canelo's very skilled. And when you're fighting somebody that's bigger than you, that's very, very skilled, it's very, very difficult to beat them. Now, Canelo, you could say, is undersized against someone like Callum Smith. But Callum Smith, for me, is not on the same level from a skill point of view that Canelo is. Canelo's skills set is on another level to Callum Smith, right? And that's why you'd say Canelo's the favorite going into that fight. Now, Callum Smith, if he was on the same level skillfully as Canelo, like he had the same skills that Canelo had, then Callum Smith would be the favorite, because he's the bigger man. He's the naturally bigger man. He's got all the physical advantages. And like I said, I always believe a good big man beats a good little man. And Errol Spence is a great little man, but Canelo Alvarez is a great big man. So it's very, very difficult. I don't see how Errol Spence wins that fight, if I'm totally honest. It's just a difficult fight, because I don't see him stopping Canelo. I don't see him beating Canelo on points. You know, Canelo, you know, you have to knock him out to get a draw. You know, and he's so tough, you're not knocking him out. So I just don't see Errol Spence beating Canelo. So I think it would be a crazy fight. I think, listen, every fighter would believe that they can win, especially someone like Errol Spence, who's very competitive, who's seen as one of the top fighters in the world. He'll believe he can beat Canelo. But for me, it's more of a fight that's going to make him a shed load of money. And I think Errol Spence knows that he is not going to make that kind of money with anyone else. So with Canelo, for example, Canelo, he can fight anyone and make a shed load of money. Errol Spence isn't in that position where he could fight anybody and make a shed load of money. Because he's still making a lot of money, don't get me wrong. 5, 6, 7, 8 million is a lot of money, but it's not 20, 25 million. It's not that kind of bracket. And he knows against Canelo, he can make that kind of money. So you can't blame him for wanting to fight Canelo, because it's financially the biggest fight out there for him. However, I think that he hasn't even cleaned up his division, because if he fights Terence Crawford, and this is why I don't think the Crawford fight would happen, if there's chance of the Canelo fight happening, why would Errol Spence want to risk that by fighting someone like Crawford who could potentially beat him? And then that Canelo fight just goes down the drain. You know, if that Canelo fight is a possible fight that can be made, and Errol Spence knows that, I wouldn't be surprised if Errol Spence makes an excuse and says, well, I can't make this weight anymore, so I'm moving up. It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me at all. Now, Errol Spence, the fact that he's categorically telling Spence, if you come up to 160, I'm willing to fight you. Errol Spence also said not so long ago that I'd fight Canelo at 160. So kind of now they've both agreed at 160. They're both willing to meet at 160. Errol Spence is willing to go to 160 to fight Canelo, and Canelo's willing to come down to 160 to fight Errol Spence. So I don't know what that fight does for Canelo, apart from obviously it'll be a big name. Like Errol Spence is a big name now. You know, he's seen as a legit guy in boxing. But for me, I don't think Canelo has anything to gain in that fight. Because if he knocks out Spence and beats him, people will say, well, you beat a welterweight. You beat a welterweight, and he was undersized. You know, if Canelo does badly, then he'll be like, wow, you know, Canelo's not that good. He just got exposed by a welterweight. You know, so for me, Canelo's not got a lot to gain in that fight. I reckon a lot of the boxing fans would rather see Canelo go up and fight someone like Beterbiev, a killer like that, and try taking on, if he wants to really take on a challenge, because Spence is a great fighter and pound for pound a better fighter than Beterbiev, possibly. But the problem is Beterbiev is bigger than Canelo. He's strong, and a lot of people would think Beterbiev would beat Canelo. So you're proving a lot more. You're proving something at light heavyweight, whereas at middleweight, fighting a welterweight, you're not really proving a lot, because most of people expect you to win that fight. You know, and maybe that's how Canelo views it. Maybe Canelo looks at it that way, that he's a big name, he's a star, he's seen as one of the best fighters in the world right now. It's a big payday for me, and most importantly, it's a fight that I believe I'll win against a much smaller man. Maybe that's how Canelo's viewing it. But I don't think if you were Errol Spence, why would you want to go and fight? I can understand why he wants to. It's a big payday, right? It's a big payday, but I just feel from a competitive standpoint, I think Errol Spence needs to clean out his division first. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions in the welterweight division. There's 3 fights out there that I still think are big fights. You know, Manny Pacquiao, Crawford, and Thurman. I think these are massive fights that Errol Spence needs to have. Needs to have before he leaves the welterweight division. 3 fights. And Errol Spence has said that he's got 3 fights more. He's got 3 fights left at welterweight. If that's the case, have those 3 fights. He's obviously confident he wins those 3 fights, whoever they're against. Then you can go up and fight Canelo. No one's gonna have a dig at you. People may want to see him establish himself at 154 before he even contemplates 160. But at least if he cleans out a division, you know, people will say, well, you know, he cleaned out his division. He's fighting one of the best pound for pound, moving up 2 weight classes. Fair enough. But Canelo's just, unless this fight drags out in 3-4 years' time, and Spence is no spring chicken himself. He's in his 30, I believe. He's 30 or 31 or something. So Spence ain't no spring chicken. So I don't see, personally, I don't see how Spence wins the fight. And that's why I don't like it, because I don't see him outboxing Canelo and winning a 12 rounds decision. And I think Canelo hits too hard, right? And he's got a granite chin, and he's too big. So I just think it's a fight where Canelo gets no credit. I think if he beats Spence, people are just going to say, well, you beat a welterweight. You beat a guy that's a lot smaller than you. I just don't see how that fight does anything for Canelo Alvarez. I can see why Spence wants it. Spence don't make that kind of money that Canelo makes, and he knows that fight with Canelo Alvarez will make him his highest payday. He knows that. But at the same time, you're putting yourself in danger, risk, health, and all of that, because obviously Canelo's a big boy and he can punch, right? And if Canelo hits Errol Spence, it could be curtains for him. You know, it could be curtains. He will hit Errol Spence, but I just don't think Errol Spence can stand and trade with Canelo. I don't think he can. I think it's a very, very difficult fight. It's a guy very, very big, strong, skilled. That's the most important thing. He's very skilled. And here's the thing with Canelo. He's like a bull. You know, if you can't hurt the bull, he's going to keep walking forward and he's going to hurt you eventually. Especially, it's not even a wild bull. It's a skilled bull. It's a clever bull. It's a bull that sets traps. It's a bull that is very intelligent. And that in itself is a problem. That in itself is a problem because you don't get clever bulls. You don't get intelligent fighters like that. There's bulls that are wild that you can, you know, you can tame for 12 rounds. But there's certain times of bulls like Canelo who are very intelligent, strong, powerful. But they're intelligent. And that's what, in my opinion, is going to be an issue for Errol Spence. It's not just the physicality of Canelo, not the fact that he's going to be walking him down. It's just the fact that he's so skilled as well. We're not just talking about a guy that's bigger, stronger. He's probably more skilled than Spence. He's been at the top more longer than Spence. He's fought better fighters than Spence, and he's fought a lot more fighters than Spence. His experience is second to none. And by the time this Spence fight gets made, God knows how much more experience and how many more former world champions he would have dethroned. You know, this guy's been in the ring with some great fighters, world champions, different styles, speed guys, you know, boxers, punchers. He's been in with everyone. He's been in with everyone. You know, a lot of people say, yeah, he lost to Golovkin, but Errol Spence would lose to Golovkin. Errol Spence would lose to Golovkin. So, you know, the Golovkin fights were close. I don't think Errol Spence goes 12 rounds with Golovkin. I don't. This man went 12 rounds with him, and in my opinion, the second time definitely beat him. So again, I don't like the fight. I've been against it just because I think Errol Spence has got a lot to do. Now, maybe if Errol Spence was to clean out the division, the fight becomes very credible. But I just know what's going to happen if that fight happens, and if Canelo goes on to win, it's just going to be like, oh, Spence was a smaller guy, and it's all of that and rubbish. But again, Spence really believes that he can beat Canelo. He really believes in himself, and you can't knock a guy for wanting to take a challenge, but I just think Canelo's too big, too strong, and I think Canelo would win that fight by knockout, if I'm totally honest with you. I don't see Canelo, and I know Spence fans might not like me saying that, but I'm just giving you my honest opinion. I don't think Spence will win that fight. I think Canelo wins by knockout. You know, you may disagree with me, you may not like what I'm saying, but at the end of the day, I speak what I think, and I do think, although I'm a big fan of Errol Spence, I think he's a quality fighter, I just think Canelo's also a quality fighter, but not just the fact that he's a quality fighter, he's a bigger man in that fight. He's a way bigger man. You know, forget about the height and stuff, you know, size. He's a bigger man. He's a bigger man, and he'll be able to absorb Spence's shots, be able to hit him with harder shots. You know, it's not in my opinion, not a very good fight for Errol Spence. Not a very good fight. But that's my take on it. Leave your thoughts, guys. Make sure to smash that like button. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.